Everybody nice and comfortable at the back there? Social distancing. Good afternoon, councillors, members of the public and officers. Welcome along. I declare this meeting open and I acknowledge this is Wadani Noongar Budja and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Councillors, I have two announcements tonight. Since our last council meeting, of course, we've had the catastrophic events in Beirut with the explosion at the port there. There's 160 plus people that were killed. There was thousands injured and there's been a couple of 100,000 displaced. We have a very large Lebanese community in Bunbury, so on behalf of Council I'd like to express my condolences to our Lebanese community and I hope that their families and friends in Beirut are travelling okay under very, very trying circumstances, so I just want that recorded in the minutes. And Council, I want to draw your attention to a speech by the Reserve Bank Governor, Philip Lowe, on the 14th of August. He made a presentation to the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Economics and I refer you to that speech. It's very sobering. We feel as though we're trying to come through this tough time in our economy and you've only got to look at Victoria to see how tough it is over there, but Philip Lowe is a person who has great respect at all political levels. So if you get a chance, www.rba.gov.au, read his speech. Thank you. We're all here, which is nice. Declarations of interest, we have Councillor Kozisek, Steele and Yip. Are there any further declarations, councillors? No? Thank you. Can I have someone move confirmation of the last OCM, please? Councillor Giles, Councillor McGuell, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. We have also minutes of the Audit Committee meeting on the 23rd of July and also the DAIC, Disability and Access Committee meeting on the 29th of July. Can I have someone move both those be received, accepted and noted, please? Councillor McGuell, Councillor McCleary, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. Are there any petitions, councillors? So tonight we have requests from 5 people which to present tonight on item 10.4.1. Mr Keenan, those who agree please indicate. Sarah Wall, those who agree please indicate. Karen Buswell, those who agree. Michelle Larson and Gary Fitzgerald. So that's all approved, so when the time comes to those people I'll invite you up to speak. You have 5 minutes each. So councillors, a method of dealing with the agenda tonight coming out is 10.4.1 and that's all I have at the moment. Anybody else? Councillor Giles? Any others? Can someone move the bulk, please? Councillor Hayward, Councillor Yip, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. We go to 10.1.2. Can someone move the committee recommendation? Councillor McGuell, seconder. Councillor McCleary. Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sorry I didn't bring this up last week, but I just completely missed it altogether. Is it common practice to write a letter to someone for doing their job? And 5 years on council, I haven't seen that before. So I'm just asking if we have done that before and if it's a common practice
It's not common practice, Councillor Giles, but under the circumstances, the committee felt that it was a worthwhile recommendation to put to council. Is there a speaker against this? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Steele. One against. I've got to look left. Well, perhaps next time. I won't be here next time, so it doesn't matter where you sit. 10-4-1. Can I invite Mr. Keenan? I understand there's a video as well, which we will play. So try and stick to 5 minutes, Terry.
Could I just check the volume's okay?
Yeah, you're looking good.
Greg, I think it is. Woo, 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 I'm not quite ready. Okay, that's horse terms. Anyway. Mr Mayor and Councillors, I'm Terry Keenan and I reside at 74 Britton Road, Kerry Park. I ask you to watch the video presentation after I stop speaking. Yes, please. It is sped up in parts due to time constraints. I am representing the 19 landowners whose signatures you received last week and who are against the rezoning of the Stables precinct higher than R10 and the road on lot 471 Bar Road. The rest of the plan we totally support. We feel we are the underdogs, like in that famous Australian movie, The Castle. This has been nerve-wracking and emotionally draining as an experience. We are now entering, very shortly I hope, lot 471 Bar Road. That's lot 471 now. think
Is
that's
that it, Terry?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I invite Karen Buswell? Welcome, Karen. You have 5 minutes as well.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr Mayor and fellow councillors. My name is Karen Buswell and I reside at 12 Bar Road, Bunbury. $17 million. $17 million, and I quote, from the West Australian Trainers Association. The WA thoroughbred racing industry underwriting the largest single investment in a racing and training facility in Rawa's history. The Bunbury Turf Club's redevelopment should trigger renewed interest and expansion of horses in training at their facility. It is entirely possible that the true value of Bunbury Stables precinct could be realised under the current zoning designation, unquote. The track development will transform the Bunbury Turf Club into an all-year-round, state-of-the-art training facility, the best of its kind in WA, if not in Australia, which is to begin in April 2021. I would like you, Mr Mayor and fellow councillors, to respectfully recognise and acknowledge the importance of both the thoroughbred and harness industries to the economic and social structure of our region, and not least of all the historical significance of the stable complex area, which is unique in Australia. By increasing the zoning to a higher density, this will subsequently be the demise of the area and eventually into just another suburb. The Bunbury Turf Club has no future plans to incorporate on-course stabling, hence the importance of the stable complex to both codes at its current zoning of R5. Any proposed R zoning higher than R5/R10 will create an extremely incompatible environments for both codes, that being thoroughbreds and harness racing. I was present at the Bunbury City Council's briefing Tuesday the 11th of August 2020, and I was surprised that there were so many unanswered questions, and furthermore, on numerous occasions it was stated that we are only discussing land use only. You cannot make an informed decision without discussing the implications that come with that usage. It makes it impossible to make an informed decision to vote on the agenda at hand. The first plan offered at the project reference group was for the stable precinct to be R5/R10, with stables being allowed on R10 blocks and no road on lot 471. But our opponents did not agree and demanded more. Next plan had blocks on western side of Bar Road at R30 and the remainder as of first scenario, and they still demanded more. Consequently, we now have R5/R30 and a road on lot 471. They have received everything that they have demanded, and we have nothing except a very uncertain future. Let us not lose sight of the fact that most people living in the complex purchase land here to train horses, and just because their circumstances have changed is no reason why we should have our lifestyle altered to suit them. The planning process is clearly in 3 areas: the land in front of the Bunbury Turf Club, Blair Street, which we do approve; the old council depot, Nutsua Avenue, which we also approve; and the stable complex area, which we are totally against zoning higher than R5 and R10. It appears that the decision to rezone to a higher density is purely based on raising council revenue by increasing the number of land rates in the area. We urge councillors to vote no, to give those living in the area to further development of their properties and invest in their future and in the future of Bunbury. The redevelopment of the Bunbury Turf Club will provide a huge benefit to Bunbury, the local community and the tourism sector, far outweighing what the proposed rezoning will provide, both socially and financially. Please do not fail to meet your obligations with this in mind. This process has continued on for approximately 5 years and has resolved nothing other than this fact. Training of horses and high density is completely unrealistic. To vote higher than R5, as it currently is, will, and let me make it absolutely clear, be voting for the removal of all horses from the stable complex, will force those wanting to retain their business and lifestyle to sell or move from the area, and will impact the viability of the training centres and subsidiary industries in Bunbury, which depend on the local horse population for their business. There is a real risk that the equine industry will move towards areas that are more supportive and take away from Bunbury a unique opportunity to be a regional showcase in Western Australia. We did not build our homes or set up our businesses or raise our children to undermine the lifestyle of others living in the area. Far from it. We purchased our land or our homes, like 99% of you all in the stable complex area, because it is a stable complex and it allows us to raise families away from the standard suburban life environment, which allows us to live with our horses in our backyard. We want to retain that lifestyle and we want to retain the fabric of this unique and historical area for the future. This is a stable complex, always was and always should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Wall. Welcome, Sarah. So you also have 5 minutes.
I'll do my best. Good evening, Mr Mayor and councillors. My name is Sarah Wall and I reside at 31 Bar Road, Kerry Park. I am one of the youngest stakeholders. My husband and I have a heavily vested interest in the breeding and training of harness racing horses. We cannot stress to you enough the proposed plan and the training of horses are not compatible. A vote for this plan is a vote no to horses. What does no horses mean for Bunbury long term? Well, no horses will severely impact our local racing clubs, especially the Bunbury Trotting Club and the equine industry that has given so much back to both economic and social contributions in our community. This current season, that is the last 11 months, the Bunbury Trotting Club has earned over $15,000 from starter subsidies from trainers whose horses are stabled within the complex and close to $7,500 in membership fees from these trainers. If we are forced out due to these changes, they will not receive these funds, and this is just one example to show the expected loss of income to our clubs. I say we, who are we? We are owners, we are trainers, we are breeders, we are drivers or riders, and we are all extremely concerned about our future in the complex and the racing industry. Whether for or against this development of the complex, the majority of stakeholders involved are either past or present trainers, owners, drivers, riders, breeders, or people stemming from some area within the equine industry. We are racing people. We work tirelessly 365 days of the year. The hours, the effort, the sleepless nights. You'd have to wonder why we have all either been or are currently still mad enough to do it. I can tell you why. It's because of the love of our sport, the love of our horses and our lifestyle that we have chosen at some point. We have all ridden the highs and lows of the racing industry, and tonight, should a residential zoning higher than R10 and the roadways in Lot 471 Bar Road be voted in, it is going to hit our local racing industry hard. There will be no going back from this. There will be no future for the people like us in the Bunbury community. The $17 million upgrade of the Turf Club was announced towards the end of the local area plan process, and to our knowledge there has been no study of the impact of this upgrade on attracting new racing participants to the area. The ability for leading trainers to establish satellite stables in Bunbury's would be a game changer. Sadly though, it is unlikely to happen if the rezoning is approved. These people would not consider coming here and we will not stay here either. Is it fair that we are forced to move out so others can benefit from our misfortune? Quite clearly we have the support of pre-eminent equine bodies in WA, which is clearly demonstrated in the letters given to councillors last week. The Bunbury public are very strong in their support regarding the retention of the current precinct and the horses. The voice of our community is not being heard. Let us consider some of the aspects of the plan. It is stated that the hours in which horses will be trained could be restrictive. How could this possibly work? Will the gallops trainers still be able to commence their day at 3 a.m? Will the harness trainers and hacks be able to traverse through Lot 471 to the track all morning and late in the afternoon? All are vital times for trainers. Will our farriers be allowed to bang on their anvils throughout the day? Will the big transport trucks be allowed to come day and night? There's so many unknowns. The road on Lot 471 runs right past the gates on the rear of all the houses where the horses come out. Newly established housing is highly likely to have kids that will be playing through Lot 471. It'll be an accident waiting to happen. This does not even take into consideration the increase in traffic. The plan states the expectation is a reduction in noise. Dust and flies will be required to be adhered to. As Bart Cummings once famously said, "How many flies am I going to be allowed to have?" In WA, there's only one other facility that comes close to what Bunbury has, and that's Ascot. The Belmont City Council offer 100% support to their equine code and are only home to gallopers. None have both codes in the same area or with residential homes. The rezoning of the stables area would make this just another suburb in our city. We keep hearing that it's years away. But if you have no future, how can you expect to stay with that level of uncertainty? Things change rapidly. You, our councillors, have one chance to give this precinct the opportunity to become a state-of-the-art equine centre. I've stood up here tonight and laid it all out on the line. Our once tight-knit community has become fractured about this matter. In closing, we support all other aspects of the plan, but not the stable precinct changes. I would like to say thank you for this opportunity and say once again, a vote for this plan is a vote no to horses. And we ask you to ask yourselves, is that fair and just?
Thank you. Michelle Larson. Welcome, Michelle. You have 5 minutes as well.
Councillors, CEO. I'd like to draw your attention to the map that is being developed by the City of Bunbury, with all the money, time, past and present councillors, town planners that have gone into this for the last 5 years. We didn't start this, none of us did, and I'm just about sick and tired of the us and them. We are all them. We all have horses. We all love our areas. We're just asking you for options. My husband is a full-time trainer. We've been in the complex since 1994. Yes, Rewa have announced a $17 million all-purpose upgrade of Bunbury Turf Club 2 years ago. No satellite trainer has moved into the area. None. And they probably won't. They're 2 hours in a truck. Perth, Boyanup, Capel, they come from everywhere. The Bunbury Trotting Club will not lose any money, as no one is going anywhere. We haven't been asked to go anywhere, and we don't intend to go anywhere. We just want options on what we can do with our land. I have 2 20-year-old boys. My grand desire is our legacy, a legacy that is currently worth nothing. Yes, the real estate agent is at its lowest ebb, but our properties are worth less than a property in Withers or Kerry Park. Houses have been on the market for years, numerous times, and have never sold. I also would like to make a comment to the video that was shown, showing the horses being dragged behind a car with a jogger. They are illegal, and it has been noted in Rewa, in Western Australia, that they are illegal, and these are the things that happen on a daily basis. The council need to be aware of where their legalities stand in your public open space, the community, the safety of the drivers, and more importantly, the safety of the horses. This matter has to end, and we're all bridging on emotion, and it is raw emotion, and I've rehearsed this all day, and this is not the path I wanted to go down. R5, R10 is a waste of time. We are sitting in the centre of Bunbury, 1.5 kilometres from every possible facility people would die to be in. We have schools, we have hospitals, we have TAFEs, we have sporting facilities, we have 3 bus stops. The turf club's still going to make their money, the trotting track is still going to make their money. The trotting track will not lose any revenue whatsoever. No one, we're all fully aware this will not change. As for the road, there is a road from Bar Road to Eccleston Street. It is used by everybody. So it's already an ungazetted road that has access. We use it all the time, people in the complex, as you've seen on the video. You also saw on the video that horse, and I have that view from my kitchen window since 1994. And believe me, most of them don't always stop. And you've seen how busy that road is with those horses at that giveaway sign. That is becoming one of the busiest roads in Bunbury, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. We would love as landowners that when the announcement from Rewa about the $17 million proposal for the upgrade of the turf club, believe me, us personally will benefit from that greatly. It would mean my husband wouldn't have to drive to Northam and spend an 18-hour day turnaround from getting up at 3 and coming home at 7 o'clock. It will be amazing. It will be amazing for Bunbury. It will bring in so much money. And I was told the other day by a member of the Bunbury Turf Club that this isn't going to happen in 2021. They can't see it happening within 3 years. Whether it happens or not, it's already been announced for 2, and nothing has changed. No one's bought in. If you drive around the complex, which I know you've all had tours of the complex, a lot of them are abandoned. There's horses haven't been in them for years. A lot of them are decrepit, they're falling down. You just have to drive around and have a look. All I'm asking is for you guys to give us and our families an option. It's 3 to 4 years down the track. We're going to be 3 to 4 years older. And some of the people training won't be training. You know, and things change and circumstances change. But this does need to end, and I think the council need to take into account the time and money and the map. That is your map. There is 19 against and there is 28 for it. And the 28 for it, most of us have horses. We're not about kicking out horses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Welcome, Gary.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors. Thank you very much. I represent Tech on Australia, Town Planning Consulting. Councillors, I'm speaking for the recommendation item 10.41. Councillors, I'm not going to labour the issue presented to you tonight by your professional planning team and executive, as the advice is extensive and comprehensive and clearly provides justification for the recommendations. I will, however, note that the process that has been undertaken in getting to this position and the recommendation has been comprehensive. It involves extensive consultation with the community, including industry groups. It has involved comprehensive analysis from a land use perspective, from an environmental, social and an economic perspective. It has included infrastructure and services analysis, traffic impact assessment and development of detailed land use scenarios. The process was, as indicated, initiated in 2015. The process of preparing the LAP and the local structure plan is based on an integrated local planning framework approach that seeks to provide a whole of government and community philosophy to strategic planning and program management at the local level. The process represents a best practice approach to land use planning. The result of the study is in part a recommendation that supports the continued use of the land for equine related activities, as well as allowing for the potential to develop medium density residential. Councillors, this is a win-win situation for all landowners. As has been noted, it's important to note that this is not an issue between people that want horses and don't have horses. This is an issue that's the same. You have the people that I've represented and are speaking tonight that have horses and are invested in this industry, but they also see an alternative. So the ability to have both operations occur, I think, is critical to what your report has presented to you tonight. Yes, there has been some comments objecting to the proposal, but overwhelmingly there has been community support to rezone the land. Beg your pardon. In analysing the arguments presented in your report, I believe it's important to note the following. There's only 9 submissions from landowners within that sub-precinct. There's reference to petitions. Your report, that document that was shown up there refers to the numbers of submissions that were made, and the main issues raised seem to be the suggestion that the continuation of the stables at the current zoning is imperative for the success of the racing industry. Let's be clear, Council, the responses in your recommendation tonight, in particular from the CEO from the Bunbury Turf Club, as noted on page 75 of the schedule of the submissions, raises absolutely no concerns with this proposal. They haven't objected to that, and they're obviously one of the major proponents as part of consideration of this. The Harness Racing Club appears to raise 2 key elements against the rezoning of the land: economic viability, raising the issue of income and subsidy in the 2019 year amounting to nearly $32,000. The response states this figure is an increase from 2018 financial year and could be an indication of more horses being trained or racing from the complex. The comment appears to imply that this income comes from the Bar Road area only. This is in fact not correct. The income comes from horses that are registered at the track, which includes horses from the stable area, but also from outside of the area where large numbers of horses registered come from. What is not in reference to the change, what is not noted in is reference to the changes that have occurred in the industry, i.e. large professional training operations relocating to outside of the city. These are more modern professional operations that better suit horse training operations. The comments provided don't quantify. The reality is that what's reflected there is the Bar Road area is only a small portion that come from the Bar Road precinct, and that the income received will not significantly change the operations from the harness racing areas. There's also comments about reference to activities which are stated as being possible in the Bar Road area, and I think it's important to clarify these because, again, it seems to imply a grander than what the reality is. vet research centre supported by Murdoch University, vet hospitals and vet practices. They can't go in residential land, Councillor. They're ex-uses, you know that. Council, it's not clear how these activities could occur on residential zone land, but your scheme doesn't currently allow for it at the moment. It's understandable that the Trotting Club is trying to support some of its members and does not consider the issues of the majority of residents in the Bar Road area as being important. The LOP and structure plan, though, provide a more balanced view which incorporates the needs of both residents and the horse training industry. The more balanced and researched response provides an option for both operations to continue. The area is experiencing considerable change. The nature of the thoroughbred racing industry and the harness racing industry is evolving, and the two racing clubs need to meet the challenges. We know that. The change in technologies and consumer preferences in order to meet industry and public expectations and to remain financially viable. At the same time, the predominant function of the stable sub-precinct is and remains and has shifted and requires renewal to avoid further decline. The changes in density will provide a diversity of housing choice as well as an ability to maintain equine-related activities. It will mean a far better environment to live and train horses. Yes, some practices may need to be considered, but many would suggest that these changes are inevitable and necessary. E.g. better utilisation of public space. These areas are for the enjoyment of all residents and not just for the breaking in of horses. Better management of environmental issues such as waste management from horses and safer environment for everyone to live and to work.
Mr Fitzgerald, I have given everybody a bit of leeway tonight, so can you just spend 30 seconds in summing?
The issues of safety are important, councillors. I'd hate to think that if a plan that's trying to control these things was rejected and something did happen, who would be responsible, but I'd suggest that decisions will be looked at closely. The opposition presents argument about changes that will adversely impact from the opponents, which significantly contribute to a diversity on the economic base of the area. The investment that you are putting into this area will be significant with jobs, creation and investment. There's no doubt about that, councillor, and at the same time you can continue to have the horse operations. And Mr Mayor, in summary, if I can just very briefly with your indulgence, summarise by saying...
You're testing me.
The importance of this is quite clearly that the councillors, the response from the thoroughbred racing industry doesn't oppose. The arguments put forward by the harness industry are limited in validity. There are members of the community which do not support it, we know that. The process undertaken has been comprehensive, fully inclusive and presents a well-researched planning recommendation for you to consider. Council, I urge you to support the executive recommendation. Thank you very much.
So I'm prepared to move the executive recommendation. Councillor McGwell, seconded Councillor Hayward. Councillor McGwell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, we're right, this has been 5 years, and I think 4 years ago I was asked to chair this working group. Probably something looking back on I wouldn't do again, but in the end that's what we did, and this is as councillors, sometimes we get cast in some things that we may or may not want to do, but that's what we ended up doing. So I think Miss Larson probably hit the, or Mrs Larson, excuse me, probably hit the nail on the head saying it has been quite exhausting. There's been a lot of maybe misinformation or a lot of arguing and really a whole lot of nastiness along the way. What I've got down to the end with it basically is looking at planning matters, trying to remove the emotion from this decision making. Obviously, I know people who live in the area. I know people who are for this plan. I know people against this plan, and have been given all kinds of advice. So, where I've got to tonight, though, is this plan, as stated, does give some options. So, if we were voting right now on whether or not we were removing horses from the area, I'd obviously be dead against it and wouldn't be agreeing to it. But what we're looking at is a whole local area plan. We, as all councillors know, we have hundreds of local area plans around this offices, which some of them obviously get acted on, some of them are used that we can be planning instruments going into the future. This is one of those. At the moment, as it seems, there's plenty of support, which I certainly do for Blair Road and Penuzia, and the one sticking point is this middle area. What I think it does opportune though is that by allowing what we're doing, we're not forcing out the horsing industry. And it's by no means done. This is obviously not the end of the line for this matter. It's got to go to the WAPC, and then it's got to have a scheme amendment to actually work out all those little things that were brought up. What's going to happen with dust controls? What's going to happen with these local laws? All that kind of stuff is still coming, and it's still going to take a lot longer. There is going to be a long time before there's any sort of serious movement before something on the ground can happen there. I think we all agree on that. That's not to mention, obviously, we still need to work out some kind of development scheme to make sure we're paying for it. So we're a long way away from any development in that area, whether that's R10, R30, it doesn't matter. But by allowing this, it gives that opportunity to going forward, that who knows what may happen. It gives planning options from there. I think, obviously, as we go forward, by giving it the way that we have at the moment, the market can determine what happens. I'm all for it. I hope hope the Turf Club stuff goes off and hope it's very, very successful. And if it is, there should be some investment in stabling in that area, and it should stay R10 or R5, I should say. And hopefully that's very successful industry in there. If it doesn't, or on-cost stabling, I know that was mentioned that it's not happening. It may happen. We don't know that at the moment. But if that becomes something that happens in 5 or 6 or 10 years' time, or there might be an opportunity at that stage where the area in between becomes non-existent or not needed, and the opportunity for development happens there. I've heard, well, why don't we just push it back and leave it? Well, it's taken 5 years to get to this point. So if we're again talking about this in 10 years' time, it'll be 30 or 50 years' time before we do anything. So, as I said, in my essence here, I can hear what the argument's against, and it pains me a little bit, but I'm taking the emotion out of this, and we're voting on purely a planning matter. We're being told by planners this can work. There's still a lot of work to be done with it, as I said, with the local laws, and in that essence, that's why we're voting for this.
Councillor Hayward.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. So we've had some very strong arguments tonight, councillors, a lot of emotion that we've seen. But I just want to suggest to you, as we think about this, we're all city councillors, we need to be thinking about what is in the best interest of the entire city. Rightly so, people have run their own campaigns and put their arguments with great fervour and great emotion, and that's exactly what they should be doing, but that's not what we should be scared of or worried about or feel even intimidated either. We need to make a decision based on what's the best outcome for the city of Bunbury, what's the best land use for this area. We've heard tonight that a decision to support this means the end of horse racing in Bunbury pretty much. There's just no way that can be true. We all know that that's not true. Even if this is to go forward tonight, it is going to be a significant number of years. It could be 10, 15 years before we start seeing any real change in that precinct based on the costs of getting in infill sewerage, the legal processes that need to go within government. So we're going to send it off to WAPC. WAPC will run their own, eye over things, look at things, and there'll be an opportunity, no doubt, for people to have some input again there. And so this process will take many, many years. And what I would say to you simply is this: what's the risk really? If in the next couple of years horse racing absolutely goes off, and those lots, the property owners that have those lots, are faced with the opportunity of either selling or leasing their lot to somebody in the racing industry, or building houses, which takes a lot of risk, the cost of sewerage and all the bits and pieces they need to put in, what's the risk? The risk for them is that if horse racing is successful, they'll all be snapped up. I mean, one of the things I think we need to remember is one of the reasons we started this journey is because despite the people who live there, who love the place, it is a bit like a old leather shoe. Fits beautifully and it's very comfortable for the people that are there, but it doesn't look very good. It certainly does not look like modern amenity, and there has not been any real sense of investment in or renewal in that space for a long time. And that was one of the reasons we started this journey, was to be able to try to see something different. And if we want to see something different, we need to do something different. And by giving people the opportunity, or by going to an R530 code, we're simply giving people more options into the future. And if that land is highly sought after by the racing industry, it will remain as being used by the racing industry, because people will pay a higher price for the land as the R5 facility than what they will pay potentially for the 6 individual lots that may be able to be carved up out of that space. The video was terrific, by the way. Congratulations to those who put that together. I thought that was really great. I love the horse kicking the ball. Nothing to do with anything. I just thought it was great vision. But one of the things it did clearly demonstrate, which is probably not the author's intent, is in actual fact there is already a mix of horse and residential activity going on in that space. So this idea that putting 6 new houses up there in a lot in 7 or 8 years' time is going to end the horse racing industry, I can't accept it. I don't think us as councillors or you as a councillor should either. We also heard that there were no wins for the group along the way. Well, again, we simply know that's not true. And initially there was some discussion around removing the jog track because it sits on council land, and that was actually on the main road there, which could actually be a very good redevelopment site. But through consent and through the process of talking with the stakeholders, they made the argument that it should be retained. So it was retained. So it's not like nobody's listened. I don't accept that. There were also in the original plans some opportunities for some further development around some of the edges, around the trotting track. And again, this plan moves away a bit from development in those spots. And that's come about because of that process that's gone on. So I think there have been a few wins along the way. And I think, honestly, that R5 to R30 really isn't going to make a difference in this space. It's certainly not going to kick people off their properties at all. So, and the other thing is as well is that also this going through, I think you talked about the Bunbury Turf Club.
Councillor Hayward, I'll draw your attention. I have to be firmer with the elected members than I am with the public,
No
so
problems.
it's 5 minutes.
So I'd urge you to support it. Thank you.
Speaker against? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Let me start by saying that the majority of this plan I totally agree with, giving strength and certainty to two of the most lasting institutions, the Bunbury Race Club and the Trotting Club. It will ensure the continuation of racing and pacing in the southwest. Look, I don't want Bunbury to be Busselton. I don't want it to be Mandurah. I want Bunbury to utilise its assets that our location and our history has given us, in locations that have been in the planning for half a century. It's time for Bunbury to capitalise on its natural advantages. History has located the race and trotting clubs in the centre of our city for over 100 years, and no other city can replicate that, and located between these historic facilities is a unique precinct that was developed over 50 years ago to accommodate the equine industry. It is a unique part of our lives in Bunbury. When I was a kid growing up in Bunbury, stables and training venues used to spread throughout the city. People used to hate living next door to stables. Flies, fleas, smell, and lots of movement and noise in the very early hours of the morning. It was recognised in the 1950s, the planners, that modern residential developments and horse training facilities did not mix. In the 1960s, the Bunbury Council came to the rescue and identified a unique parcel of land that existed between the Trotting Club and the Race Club that was developed to become our first equine hub, commonly known as the Bar Road Stables Precinct. Its unique zoning made it a prime target for redevelopment under Town Planning Scheme 7 and caught developers' eyes, being large lots surrounded by a developing suburb being gentrified and redeveloped by the sale of Homes West houses to the public. This is where the rot set in, and a number of attempts to subdivide the land fell on deaf ears within Bunbury. But this led to uncertainty to the stables precinct, and new owners and trainers could see the writing on the wall that horses were on their way out. There was no new developments that were characteristic over the previous 30 years. And today, all of the houses in the precinct are over 20 years old. I believe that the uncertainty created this problem, and it still exists today. With the imminent $17 million reconstruction of the Bunbury racetrack, the future for the racing industry in Bunbury is secured. The investment into the race club will create a world-class racing and training facility that will put Bunbury on the international stage, being broadcast into countries around the world. The transformed Bunbury track will allow racing all year round. The existing 21 race meetings a year will become 35. And with pressures on Perth racing, Bunbury is well placed to attract and retain trainers by means of affordable living and a quality lifestyle. a real game changer for the local racing industry and for Bunbury itself. This will expose Bunbury to Asia, and events will be broadcast into homes and venues in the most populated time zone on the planet throughout the whole year. This will bring the spotlight on the uniqueness of the Bar Road subdivision. It also showed the great foresight and strength of previous councils to resist the temptation of redevelopment of this unique equine hub. If Bunbury is to be featured on the world stage, then the infrastructure in the area that the world will see needs upgrading and maintenance so that it is a world-class facility and that people will want to live in Bunbury. I believe the roads, traffic calming, curbing, lighting and the horse park at lot 471 should have some budget allocations to lift the area to its full equine potential. There has never been a better time to keep this area purely as a unique equine hub. I'm excited about the future of this area and believe that it should remain R5. Any split coding, even R10, will create control area regulations, development buffering, and ultimately bring about the demise of the equine hub and see the end of horse racing and horse training in the precinct. But while I'm happy with the overall scheme, I do believe that the area should remain as R5 without the split coding, and I'll be voting against the executive recommendation. Thank you.
Question, Mr Mayor, please.
Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Brown. You just brought to my attention that you believe that upgrading...
Through me.
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
Through the upgrading of the equine centre out there, the stables area, my question is, who will actually support and finance that? Would it be the city, that's private area, or will it be private development? Because I don't understand who's going to be developing this if, as through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Brown mentioned that the improvements are going to be done. Where's the money coming from, Mr Mayor, if we don't go through with this recommendation tonight? Thank you.
Well, Councillor McCleary, the city would look at funding as it does for the infrastructure for the entire city at each budget time. At the moment, to my knowledge, there is no part of our current budget dedicated to that area. The question of sewerage is a matter for individual property owners unless the state government does it through its infill scheme. So from the city's point of view, at the moment we have no commitment to inject any funding into that area, but that's not to say it won't change into the future. Speaker 4, Councillor Plum.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. Councillors, I've felt very marginal about this decision. I'm sure many of you also have. And whilst I'm not passionately advocating that lots in the stables precinct should be subdivided or developed ASAP, I do very much believe the right decision tonight is to increase the opportunity for all residents in the area, to increase the overall amenity of the area, and to enhance the streetscape and residential capacity of the area. And that decision is to accept the LAP in the executive recommendation in front of you. Tonight we must decide to move forward, not to block progress due to potential unknowns based on speculation. This agenda item has always been planning driven. The process to prepare an LAP was not driven by either side of the debate here tonight, which means the rezoning of the precinct will not go away. If this is voted down tonight, it will go back and forward with the WAPC over the next few years, wasting more time and money, and come back to council largely unchanged because R30 is already on the low end of medium density zoning. And I should point out as well, it will remain R5, R30. So R5 is not going away. This is a dual zone LAP. It is highly likely that WAPC would it is highly unlikely that WAPC would ever support R10 or 20 in an urban renewal area like this precinct. The concerns we're hearing here tonight largely revolve around the unknown capacity for trainers to continue their work in the precinct after this LAP is accepted. I've spoken with community members on both sides of the debate, some directly and others indirectly affected by this proposal. And while I share some of those genuine concerns, in my view, they do not warrant voting down this LAP. This zoning change will not immediately or in the long term adversely affect the training of horses. In fact, Due to the many more hurdles required for any kind of development to take place, it is highly likely nothing will change at all for at least 5 to 10 years. If and when any dwellings are added to the current density of the area, it is purely speculation that it would somehow prevent trainers from continuing their work. Finally, councillors, I'd like to point out that this is only one step in the planning process. Councillor McGuell pointed out this earlier. We will have more opportunity to make decisions about the details and the plans, strategic plans that come back after this LAP is accepted, if it is accepted. Regardless of how the decision goes tonight, I will be doing my best to make sure that no one misses out as we progress these plans forward for our beautiful city. I highly recommend, councillors, that you vote for the motion in front of you tonight and do not stagnate this local area plan. And just in closing, I'd like to just point out there was a comment made that this was driven by the city desiring to increase rates of revenue for by increasing the density, which is absurd. Councillors, you know that we would be investing in capital expenditure. We would need to make that decision about the capital costs that go into that area, which is investing in that area, and it would take potentially decades to recoup the cost through rates. But I encourage you to support this motion.
Speaker against, Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, this is an issue that I believe has divided our community, and I don't like it very much personally. I've thought about this issue since I've been on council, and I keep coming back to the same point. Council initiated, owned the land and sold the lots in the Sable subdivision, who bought this in good faith that they could remain there with their horses. In my view, council has a moral obligation to these people. Some of those are still there. Despite what has been said that council can manage any issues that arise from the close proximity of people and an R30 code, does not ring right to me. I know that no one wants the horses to leave, but practically, these are large, and I must say, adored animals for me because I grew up with them. They are large, they can be flighty, they're unpredictable. And I have a fair idea of their behaviours, and it just won't work with people living cheek by jowl with the horses. There'll be complaints about dust, safety, noise, and the inevitable result will be conflict. It's fanciful to pretend that council will be able to manage these conflicts and all will live in harmony. R10 allows for 6 residents to be built on each block, so that means an extra at least couple of people in every resident, so you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 to start off with. They may have offspring, so that's another couple. So you are really increasing the amount of people that are living in the area. So if we went to state government for funds to deep sewer after rezoning to R30, competing with everyone else in the state, including the metro area, blocks are subdivided and people begin to build, can you imagine with all that activity, will this be compatible with stabled horses next door? It means the horses will go. I don't think there's any doubt that if this goes to R30, the horses will eventually go. They can't stay there in that environment. What a pity would that be that another tradition in Bunbury has gone along, which means economic loss for people. We're already competing with the metro tracks and those in Pinjarra and I understand Rockingham and Larkhill. R30 would also make it almost impossible for new trainers to come to the stable subdivision because the zoning would make them unaffordable. So I have deep concerns for all sides of this issue, but I believe that horses and people living in close proximity are not compatible. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Speaker 4. Councillor Steele.
I'm not speaking for, but I'd like that we move standing orders that for everybody that wants to speak for or against, that we have the chance to do that. Thank you.
So Councillor Steele's moving that specific standing order that everybody has a chance to speak tonight. Is there a seconder?
Yeah.
All in favour? That's carried unanimously. I'll speak for this, councillors. I'm very, very pleasing to hear the support all speakers gave to the other elements of this whole LAP. That's the Nootsier Avenue, the Bustle Highway alongside of the Turf Club, the Milligan Street, Britton Road area. As Councillor Hayward pointed out, that was an area that we looked at initially to see if there could be further residential development there. So it's very pleasing there's support for all other elements of this LAP apart from the zoning. And I guess that hasn't changed from day one when we kicked this off 4 or 5 years ago. The key point, councillors, here is that what's proposed is an R5, which is existing, dash R30. So we're focusing tonight on land use planning. And I've said that last week at the briefing session. As elected members, we are required to focus on land use planning matters only. So it's a win-win. R5, nothing changes. As one of the speakers said, well, in the future, if her family or their family wishes to do something else to an R30, well, at that time they may do that. I just don't see any losers out of what's proposed in the executive recommendation. None. There has been discussion about other points, and I'll just quickly touch on the racecourse redevelopment. Obviously, with that redevelopment investment by WA Racing and Gaming, it's a show of significant confidence in Bunbury as a long-term host or venue for horse racing and pacing and even greyhound racing into the future. That fact alone demonstrates to me that there is a great future in Bunbury for horse pacing and horse racing. And if greyhounds come along into the future, that's a matter for others to decide. There is a win-win here. No one's losing this. There's no losses here. Focus on the land use planning, councillors, and I urge you to support this. Speaker against. Councillor Stick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to clarify a comment in relation to the proposed R30. That will provide for higher density living. In this report, it clearly states that if only 50% of the area is developed, it can come down to 300 metres squared per lot. That's 444 dwellings, 1,175 persons. Right in the report. Higher density of that kind against horse living? Absolutely, we're going to be setting up a future council with problems. Residents with problems? That is a planning matter. There is no speculation about that, sir. Also, any lot of land that is 2,000 square metres, they can develop that and they don't need to deep sewer it, as it stands. The economic demand is exactly what has driven us to divide our community. 2004 Barbetti report earmarked this land for residential development. That's been since 2004. Not to mention, the report itself states clearly that the drivers and the economic force is in education and health. It is also stated that they want to add those in the areas around that LAT plan. They are not consistent with the horsing industry. The equine industry of veterinary services, veterinary hospitals, they are ancillary uses to the track. They are absolutely allowable on that racecourse, as it stands, as an ancillary use. Furthermore, the R coding and density, as I said, will impact on the horses and the amenity of the area. That is a planning matter. those horses will be impacted upon, and so will the persons moving into their area at higher density living. So I know that a lot of work's been provided by all sides and our staff, but we were the initiators in this on the planning grounds to create higher density living. It is a backdoor entry into a land grab. There's nothing more than that. We ourselves as a council put an application into the Planning Commission here against the Shire of Dardanup, against Wandoo land development. And I don't think that that is not consistent with this, because I think and I believe that it is. And I'm just putting it out there. Residential activities, they are not horse activities. If you've got an extra 1,175 persons at only 50% development, you've got a lot of people hanging around the tracks and the horses. And evidence shows that there's, in the reports, already complaints of dust and noise and flies. That's just going to grow greater. And lastly, I would just go to the point that focusing on closeness to the CBD, the health areas, the park centre, the bus routes, all of those are all consistent with higher density living. Every bit of evidence in these reports are all pointed to higher density living, not about horses. I rang the Belmont Council myself. I asked for their complaints and how they deal with their racing industry. Their head planner told me horses and humans living together don't mix. Don't do it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've always thought from the very beginning that to be able to enhance the area, improve the area in any way that the planners thought was responsible and to be using the community as a guide was the way to go. Progress, we can't sit way back 50 years ago what happened then. I believe that what we can have there will be something unique, it'll be upgraded, and it will be snapped up by any of the racing or the, I don't know what to call them, I'm not a horsey person, but the joggers, the racers, the gamblers, the people who love horses. That is the community that you will have there. The people who will be building out there, if they were fortunate enough to be able to buy a block, they want to be able to look at the horses getting trained, whatever. They're the sorts of people that are going to be there. Same as if you're a football fanatic and the best thing you think is to be at a beautiful oval where you can see the game from your back veranda. So I believe that it will work. I believe that there probably won't be as much residential because once we start tidying up that area, once there's movement, once there's a positivity going through that area that development can happen, I believe all eyes will turn into that area of the people who are trainers, amateur trainers. I don't think that there will be professional trainers coming in that area. I see it more of a suburbia training area for horses. Great place for the kids with their horses to have, but at least it won't be mud smacked. At least it'll be organised, it will be regulated, it will be safe, and I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be more than 10 horses that are approximately there now in future time. So I really would like to see us to progress here and to be assured that it will go ahead, it will stay as a horsey place, and the people that will be there were the people who love horses and wish to train them there. Thank you.
Thank you. Another speaker against. Any speaker? Councillor Yip, you indicated you want to speak.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As has been mentioned already this evening, this precinct has time, and I think that's the best thing that this precinct can have at the moment for the Stables precinct, because we can't predict the future, but over time things will play out the way that they're supposed to. Whether that's an increase in racing and on-course stabling or stabling in the precinct area, those people will dominate, but if racing declines or for whatever reason people move out of the area with their horses, then that opens up options for other people to move into the area. So I think, as we've been told, this has a long timeline, and I think if we all look at it as a long-term project, then the things that are meant to happen for that area will happen. Thank you.
Any further speaker? Councillor Turner.
I cannot support the racecourse local area plan. One of the key principles, well, the economic assessment prepared by the City of Bunbury in 2017 states, one of the key principles driving the preparation of the local area plan is the retention and continued viability of the turf and trotting tracks. Therefore, their future needs with regards to land required to accommodate the club's future planned and continued viability needs to be a key consideration. You can argue that they don't have to subdivide, but the truth is that it will be the slow death of the stables precinct, and it will also bring along with it many other issues. There was something said about it doesn't look any good. I drive past there 1 to 3 times a day, and I've never thought once that it doesn't look any good. The current trotting club is against the local area plan going ahead. This should carry a lot of weight in regards to whether we accept or not accept this local area plan. If the turf club was against it, I don't even think we'd be looking at a plan to start with. A large share of the dwellings are owned by trainers who use either the turf and trotting club facilities for training. It is understood through discussions with the two clubs that a larger share of the trainers residing in the stables are associated with the trotting club. The last thing a stables precinct needs is a high density of housing. If you have a high density of housing, goes ahead, it doesn't matter how much you inform people beforehand who move into the area about the precinct like this. Once they move in, they will start to protest about the noise of trainers and horses, especially the 4 a.m. starts and the late night returning of the horses from race meets at midnight, not to mention the excessive dust and flies in the area, the noise of races being called at both clubs when the meets are on, the bright lights from the trotting track or the annual fireworks show. All this local area plan has done over the last 3 to 5 years is divide a community within the precinct and pit a neighbour against neighbour. It's certainly created a lot of stress for all those involved. By changing the zoning to a high density will threaten this unique and very important area in Bunbury. Current owners enjoy the convenience of having all the facilities supplied in one area. It would be too expensive for them to relocate. Locals do not use Bar Road. The only time I've ever been down Bar Road was yesterday when I went to meet the racers who are involved in this. We know not to go in that area because not to scare the horses. Only the residents drive down Bar Road. You might get a few, but locals know to stay out. There are 3 ways this can go. If R30 zoning goes ahead, no trainer will want to buy into the stables district, knowing that in the future up to 6 units could be built on the blocks of land on either side of them. No trainer wants construction going on around them. Any future investors will want to make maximum profit by paying the lowest possible price for a stables block and then pack in as many units as possible. They're not going to care about the stables precinct or its future viability. Current owners who want to subdivide will have a long wait of around 10 to 15 years for deep sewerage to even go in before they can even start the process of subdividing their property, meanwhile losing out on a trainer potentially wanting to buy their block. The stables precinct would have construction going on sporadically over many years if and when the deep sewerage does go in. This will greatly impact on all the horses and the trainers in the area. The last thing they need is the sound of a bobcat, demolition of old stables and construction workers hammering away close by. This will create an ongoing danger for both owners, trainers and their horses. Since Britton Road has opened up through to Robertson Road, connecting the light industrial area, the traffic has significantly increased. The last thing we need is more traffic in Kerry Park, especially amongst the stables precinct. High density housing brings with it the higher number of vehicles, pedestrians and social issues. Kerry Park has finally started to see social improvements, and we're noticing families buying instead of renting, which is making a huge difference to the overall appeal and appearance of the suburb. We don't want investors.
Thanks, Councillor Turner.
Buying and living the properties they purchase.
Councillor Turner.
Pride. I'll finish it. I urge my fellow councillors to seriously consider probably one of the most important decisions you'll be making on the council this year. Please do not destroy this incredibly unique area by allowing R30 zoning to go through. Thank you.
Further speaker? Councillor McGuell.
I will finish very quickly because I think there's been plenty said from both sides and a lot of good points. I just want to bring it back to my opening statement, talking about that allowing the market to determine what is right at the time. As we've all said, at the moment it is R5/R30, so I'm happy to support it in this aspect because of the fact that in the ideal world, hopefully we'll see some development along Nutsia. Hopefully we'll see some development along Blair Street. And if the things are all going well, R5 will stay in that stables area. If in 10, 15, 20, 30 years' time, whatever it may be, I mean, we're talking about increase in traffic. Surely the area is going to increase in traffic anyway with infill development around it. So there may be a time when horsing either is on course stabling or not, where we have obviously discussed that, but it may stay as R5 in that hub there. We don't know that. But by giving this opportunity now to do this, it explores options going into the future, which may be in many years to come. Said there's still a number of cases to come through here. We do need to get a scheme amendments to raise a number of things talked about in terms of noise, dust, etc. So I'm quite happy to support this, send it to the WA Planning Commission, and then obviously we'll continue going forward into the future.
Thank you. I'll put the executive recommendation. All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's carried. Those against were Councillors Kozisek, Smith, Turner, Steck, Steele and Brown. The rest were for. I just want to make a comment, ladies and gentlemen. I know it has been an emotional, stressful time for many of you. Can I just encourage you all to get back to being good neighbours? It's a very difficult time. Get back to being good neighbours. Enjoy your industry. The future is looking fantastic, believe me. Thank you so much for everybody for your 4 years of input. Councillor McGuell, thank you for taking that challenge. Good outcome. I think, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, I declare this meeting closed at 6:43 p.m. Thank you very much.